Hi there, and welcome back to another PSDK and Pokemon Studio tutorial video. In this video, I'm going to be going over how you are going to create your own custom region map. So when you open your town map or you're interacting with a very specific event that calls for this scene, that it will have your region map appear. Now this is obviously the Umbra region map, so it's not going to look how yours looks at all, but when you end up designing your own, you will then want to obviously add it into your game. So this is going to show you how you're going to add it into the game. It's not going to show you how to create your own region map because I'm not an artist. I will show you some kits that I found on DeviantArt that you can use to create your own region map, and I'll show you how it works in the sense of like how to put the names on the map. Like if I went over here, you can see this is the Rocky Mine, and over here is Mossy Cave, and over here is Kadir Town. Now just so you know, this is on an 8x8 tiling, so right now it looks wrong. It's just because I'm using one of our older region maps that actually has the background in there so you can see everything. I had to adjust our old region map as I was learning how this system works, so that I could explain it to you guys. So yeah, I have a proper understanding of it now, and basically this entire video is going to hopefully help you understand how to do it yourself. So before you get started with actually adding it into the game, you're obviously going to have to create your region map. And like I said, I don't know how to do that exactly because I'm not an artist, but I did find some resources that you can use and also a tutorial that will show you step by step on how to create at least a Unova or a black and white styled map. But there are some other links that are going to be showing you how to make a Heart Gold Soul Silver one, or at least giving you the assets for it, and then also giving you some more city and tile routes and paths ones down here, with a little bit of other nice useful icons over here, some palettes for your water, your mountain, your grass, forest, etc., and as well as a Sinnoh region map. So we have a few different styles down here for you to pick from. I couldn't find a Hoenn one, but I think between these three you could probably find something that you would like that you can settle on. And just to reiterate again, I'm not an artist, so I'm not going to show you exactly how to make the map, but I'll show you an understanding of how to know where to place things. First thing you should do is go into your graphics folder in your project and go into interface and go to WorldMap. Here you're going to see a few things. You'll see the cursor and the frame. So I guess I should show you how it looks in default PSDK. So by default, your region map is going to have this little border, this frame and everything. However, if it's too small, it will be fine. It'll fit in this map totally normal as expected. However, if you wanted to change it and you wanted to go bigger, like I did with Umbra, what you could do, and just so you could see how it would work, you can change the name of WorldMap to like WorldMap 1 and change this one to 2. Now, as you can see, this one's dimensions are 608 by 456. The previous one was 208 by 160, and the template that they give you is 256 by 168. So there's no consistency here. It actually doesn't really matter too much as long as your map is divisible by 8. And I mean that by the width and the height needs to be divisible by 8. Because like I was trying to say a little bit earlier, this does move on a grid, like an 8x8 grid. Each one of these squares is going to be 8x8 pixels. And so when you press right, if you started here in this blue one in the top left, you'd move over to this green one. If you held right for like, you know, a second or two, you'd probably move over here into this blue one, because you're going to move exactly 8 pixels to the right or 8 pixels down when you press down. And like I was saying, if your region map is bigger than what was expected, it is okay because it will still load it and you'll actually be able to move it around. It's not going to pop out of like the region map frame or anything. It's just going to allow you to actually move it around. So I'm going to show you real quickly, like we were able to do with the Umbra region map, because the Umbra region map is bigger than the default one. And so is the one that we just grabbed to use in our example. So when you go here, as you can see, it's actually way bigger than the previous map, and you can move the cursor around and it's going to move around in the region as well. So you don't have to worry too much. And if you do change the UI, you can adjust these things and it will still work like how you want. And if you press V, it's going to zoom out and you'll be able to see even the whole entire region map, or almost the whole region map. It's so massive that you still can't. So like I said, I'm not an artist by any means. I'm not going to be able to show you exactly how to make a region map, but I can at least show you the proper guidelines for when you're making yours so that you don't waste any time like I did. First thing, you would greatly benefit from just using this world map template. You don't have to use it, but it would really benefit you whenever you're making your region map. Again, you can do whatever size you want. but the width and the height needs to be divisible by 8. It's really, really important. So let's just say we'll do like a 54, like I'm just gonna make it 54 tiles wide, right? That's gonna be 432 on the width. And let's say on the height, I wanted it to be like, say 40, right? So this would be 320. Okay, so this is my region map, right? I want my region map to be this size. We're gonna copy this template and we're gonna paste it. We're gonna copy it again and we're gonna paste it again. And what's really important here is to make sure that we don't have any overlap here, right? We don't want it to be this way. We don't want a pixel in between them. It needs to be touching, right? Then we are going to copy all of this. We're gonna paste it down here. And since we're in a situation where it's blue touching blue, that doesn't make sense. So we're just gonna push it up until it's not blue touching blue. All right, so now we have the template for the region map of our size. The next step would be lowering this opacity to about 80. To do that, if you're using paint.net, click on the layer you want and click on this little cog here, or wrench, sorry, and just change this opacity to 80. It might be hard to see and you might think like, oh, I can't see anything like this, but when you actually slap a region map behind it, so let's go back into paint.net and slap it in a different layer, and we put it behind it, you can totally see. If you think that you need more, you can adjust this value. It doesn't really matter. To whatever you think is fitting. Like I said, I just think 80 is pretty decent. I can see right here, like this is where the cursor would be. The cursor could be here. The cursor could be here. Like each square represents where the cursor could be, right? So like the cursor could be here. The cursor could be here. So when you're making your region map, you really, really want to take into consideration where the cursor is going to be so that you can actually hover over your route properly or hover into a town properly. Maybe even like a little well right here. I did give you guys plenty of resources that are linked in the description below. You have this tutorial here. This is a written tutorial on how to actually use the assets and how to make it look good. These are the assets. You would take any of these that you want and start slapping them on top of a background until you get a pretty region map like so. Again, unfortunately, I'm not an artist. I'm not good at this and I don't have the time to do that for this video. So when you are done making your region map, then just keep on watching. So if you wanted to add your custom region map and you properly did everything, it's that 8x8 tiling going on. All you need to do is add it down here as WorldMap when you save your map. So like I did here when I changed it from this one to this one, I just renamed it to WorldMap. So if you're going to use the default UI because you don't want to make a custom UI or you just don't have the time to do that or anything, it's actually really simple. All you need to do is go into World Maps, and like I did when I changed from this map into this map, I just had to rename it. That's all you have to do. So all you have to do is when you save your map, just make sure that it's saved as world_map, and it's going to use that map as the main region map. Now, if you are actually going to change the UI and you don't want to keep this frame, that's when things become a little bit more complicated. In the case of Umbra, we used a custom UI, and so we had a different border. We had this little frame, which is not exactly the same as the frame that's given with PSDK, which is right here. You can see that there's a slight difference in the actual width of it and maybe even the height. So I had to adjust these things, and that wasn't too complicated. So for Umbra, we wanted it to obviously stay inside of our little grid here, or inside of our square, which is a bigger square than the default one. And it started up here in this little corner, which if you hover it, it's 32 by 37. It starts 32, 37. You can see it actually at this number down here when we hover here, that it's 32, 37. So we would need to create a new script in here, and we can just name it for now 00100 townmap.rb, and just delete all of this. Say yes. I'm gonna open up Visual Studio Code, and we are gonna go into our tutorial workspace here. We're gonna open up our town map, and the first thing we need to do is module gameplay class world map, and we need to inherit from base clean, update, frame balanced. And here is where those two dimensions that we were just mentioning, this is where they would go. So we need to make a new constant. This one is going to be called, or we need to modify an existing constant. This constant is called vmapx. And in our case for Umbra, we had to make this a 32. By default, this is a 49. And our y was a 37. Now, if you don't remember why, I will remind you that when we went up here, this is where I want my map to start. And when we look in that bottom right area, it says that this pixel is at 32, 37. And then I needed to know the actual size of the map, which if we look over here in this corner, it's going to say it's 256 by 168. So then we would need to create a new map width of 256, which I believe was originally 257, and a new height of 168, which I do believe was still 168. I didn't actually have to adjust this one. Now, after I made these changes, I did have to do a few more things. Now, for me, what I did was I got the size of our region map, which our region map was actually the entire resolution. Originally, it was going to be a full screen region map. And you can see if you go into our interface and you go to WorldMap and you go to preview here, you can see that we had a full region map. And if you hover over it, it is actually 320 by 240. So whatever your region map's dimensions are, we're going to have to put those here. So for me, this was a width of 320 and a height of 240. So now that we've modified the constants, these are actually the most important things for us to get out of the way when we are just modifying the actual frame. There's some other things that you could modify, like if you wanted the cursor to move slightly faster or a little bit slower, you can adjust the cursor move duration. Now this is normally equal to 4. I don't think you really need to modify this, so I'm actually just going to delete this, but you could have it there in case you wanted to make it quicker or slower. Realistically, these are the only changes that you need if you're only changing the frame. And if you weren't changing the frame, then you don't even need to look at what I just did here. The other thing that you may notice when you're looking at your region map is that it actually says the region name in the top right corner. So if I give myself a region map and we go into bag and we check that town map, we're going to see it says the Kanto region in the top right corner. So if we wanted to change this to be whatever your region name is, you just have to modify one CSV file. The CSV file in question is in your data, text, dialogues, and I believe is 1009. We can open this in Visual Studio Code, and we're going to see all the region names here. It is using this one for your default region name. So if this is not the name of your region, then you just need to change Kanto to whatever you want it to be. We're going to do the tutorial region just so that we know what we're talking about. And we're going to open this. Now, I imagine our town map is going to look a little bit funky now because we changed some constants and we didn't actually change the frame. But that's not the point, because what I'm about to show you is just the region name change. So as we open the town map, you're going to see in the top right corner that it does show that this is the tutorial region. And if you also notice over here, you're going to see a whole bunch of warnings basically saying that these constants are already defined. If you wanted to get rid of those constants, it's actually really easy. You just have to do remove const and then the name of the constant. And so now when we launch it, it's not going to have all of those warnings anymore. See? Now you may be wondering, how am I actually going to add anything onto this grid? Well, first, since I'm not actually using a custom region map, I'm going to delete these. And just to reiterate, you didn't have to ever do any of these changes. These changes are only for if you have a custom region map UI. That's like not even just a custom region map, but you're actually changing the frame. You want to change the frame is the only reason you need to adjust these values. And even in that situation, you shouldn't be using these same exact values. They should be specific to your UI. So since we're not doing a custom frame, I'm gonna now remove this custom script here because we don't need this anymore. So I'm just gonna delete it. And we are going to open Studio because to access the region map editor, you have to launch it through Studio. So we're gonna go into our tutorial project. And then over here, we're gonna hover. We're gonna click on WorldMap's editor and it should launch. If for some reason it doesn't, it might mean that we just need to copy it from another file. So if that's happening to you, just create a new project. I do already have another new project that I've created before that I'm just gonna grab from my data, PSDK, and I'm gonna grab the WorldMaps RX data. I'm gonna put this in my data, PSDK, and I'm gonna paste it here. And then this time we should be able to launch it perfectly fine. And there we go. So now, as before I was saying, this moves on an 8x8 grid. I know it's really hard to see, but I could be moving my mouse and you're gonna notice it's only gonna move when I hit a certain distance. So that's when you're outside of that 8x8 area. You can't actually zoom in or anything. The best thing you should do at the start is go over here into this command prompt and then do clear map, which is gonna get rid of all of the previous zones that were listed. Next, what we wanna do is we wanna do list zone so that we can see all of the zones that we have available that we can add onto our map. And then we could do select zone. And over here, you can see the IDs. So for PSDK town, road 1 and outside, you would type that number that's next to it. So let's say I wanted to do outside was, whoops. So let's say I wanted to do outside. So we do select zone and then we do that and it will tell you which zone you just selected. And then you can put your mouse wherever you want that zone to be. And this is why, like I said before, it's important that you design your map properly on that 8x8 grid. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to put the zone exactly where you want. I know it's very hard to see, so let me switch over to a different scene real quickly to make it easier for you. So if I go over here, you can see it covers this little green circle perfectly because this circle is an 8x8. And over here, it covers it perfectly. And even here, you have like a very specific area in this area that would be different. So like say for instance, this whole entire red area up here would be PSDK town. But then when you're hovering over this bottom right, maybe that's the player's house. So let's just say if that's how we wanted to do that, we wanted to see the zones again, we can do list zone, do select zone. We could do 2 for PSDK town. And then we would click, click, and you can see when you hover over those areas, it's gonna say what that zone is in the top left corner. Again, I know it can be a little bit hard to see, so we're just gonna go into this view. And then let's say we want it to be player's house. So we're gonna change the zone to 1. And then we're gonna go over here and we're gonna click there. So now it's gonna say /n1's house, but this is the player's house. That's what that variable stands for. And then over there would be PSDK town. Now, like I said before, this allows you to pick any zone that you want and it allows you to add it to the region map. When you're done, all you need to do is type save and then we can do exit. It may have shown as like a little crash or something, but it didn't actually crash. It saved your data. So now when we launch our project, it's going to do some conversions. And so now when we open our town map, we'll notice some changes here. So when we go over here into this corner, we're going to see Don's house, which obviously it's not going to show /n bracket 1's house like it did in the editor. And then up here, we still have PSDK town all around that area. So like I said, this will allow you to add any zones anywhere you want. And if you want the cursor to move properly on your map, you need to make sure that you're using this 8x8 grid. So with this video, I think I've covered enough. I believe I covered how to add your region map, how to change the frame if you have a custom UI. And I gave you guys some links to some map kits in case you wanted to get started on creating your own region map. I also showed you how to change the region map, how to add the text, and how to add the zones on the region map so that when you hover them, it shows them in the town map. I don't really know what else I could cover there, so I believe that's everything. Hopefully this video helped you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.